Color theory is something a lot of people are taught, and most people theoretically understand it, but I think I can speak for most people that it's a totally different story actually applying this information. To start us off, I'm going to give a brief overview of Color Theory 101. If you've ever taken a beginning art class, you've probably heard something like this. The primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. The secondary colors are purple, orange, and green. And then you have all your tertiary colors. You may have also been taught that if you add any two complementary colors, which are colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, you get this grayish, greenish, brown color. The thing is, this color wheel was based on traditional painting, which behaves a little differently than pure light. The color wheel for light looks more like this. Your primaries are red, green, and blue. Your secondaries are cyan, yellow, and magenta, and your tertiaries are more like this. If you combine two complementary colors from this color wheel, you get pure neutral gray. So why does it matter that there are multiple color wheels? Well, RGB light gives us the most complete color wheel. This is what your eyes evolved to see, and why we use tiny pixels of RGB light for our TV, computer, and phone screens. This is also how art software processes color, so it's useful to keep in mind while making art. Digital art software isn't always going to blend colors in the same way our eyes see things in real life. When you think of a sunset, you might think of pinks, purples, and peaches, right? Well, your drawing software isn't going to automatically know that you're painting a sunset. If you take blue and orange and blur them together, you're going to get some grays in the middle there. This is because complementary colors will go straight through the middle of the color wheel when they're blended together. Now, if you don't want those gray midtones, you have to manually add in colors that go around the color wheel. You'll end up with a gradient more like this. Whether or not this is what sunsets actually look like, this method is still handy to know if you ever want more control over how your colors mix. One last thing about color theory is that all colors have an inherent value. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. There are lots of ways you can check your values, but the easiest way that I like to do it is by making a solid black layer and setting it to the color blending mode. With this turned on, you can see that even though all the colors on our color wheel are the same saturation, blue is much darker and yellow is much lighter. With all this in mind, let's move on to our first exercise. So what we have here are these three little shapes. We're going to put them in each of these boxes and tweak the colors until they look like they match the environment they're supposed to be in. So here they are in each of the boxes with the colors completely unedited. Our first background is pure blue, which is one of our primary colors. So in order to match this pure cyan circle to the blue background, we need to find the midpoint between these two colors. With our color wheel here, we can quickly see that it would be this blue right here. So I'll go ahead and drop that in. Then the midpoint between red and our blue background is going to be magenta. So I'll put that in. And then because blue and yellow are opposite each other on the color wheel, we're actually going to use this middle gray. Okay, next is this magenta background, which is a secondary color. So same thing, the midpoint between cyan and magenta is blue, so we'll change our circle to that. Then the midpoint between red and magenta is this hot pink. And then the midpoint between magenta and yellow is red. And lastly, this yellow-green background, which is one of the tertiary colors. This is where things start getting a little more tricky since I don't have a clear midpoint between any two of these colors. I'm going to have to eyeball it. How I like to do this is by color picking each color and watching the cursor on my color wheel animate, and then I choose a midpoint that looks like it's in the middle of that. So watch how I do this. So I'll go back and forth and I'll look at the cursor and then I'll find something that looks like it's kind of in the middle and then drop that in there. Then next one. So it looks like something here. And then lastly, these two. Looks like it would be somewhere right there. So I know what you're thinking. I guess that kind of works, but it still looks off. Well, the reason for that is because we only adjusted the hue without taking into consideration the value of the local colors. If we check our values, we can see that they're not even close to what they used to be. I've put duplicates of the shapes with their original values next to each of the new colors, so you can really see just how much they've changed. So now what we're going to do, with keeping our black color layer on, we're going to adjust the colors so they match the values they're supposed to be. I'm adjusting them by hitting Control U, which brings up the hue, saturation, luminosity sliders. But you could also find that by going up to your menus in the corner. And I am just eyeballing this, so it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but you totally could make it pixel perfect if you really wanted. Okay, so now that they're all adjusted, we can hide our reference values and turn off our black layer and see that our colors look a lot better now. For the most part, they look more like the local colors that they had before, but tinted slightly. But we're not done yet. We also have to keep in mind that the light of our environments have a value too. Our local colors are in pure white. White light is created by combining equal amounts of red, green, and blue light. So if you have colored light, it's always going to be dimmer than pure white. So let's select our shapes one more time and adjust them until they look like they match the intensity of the lighting. I'm opening the hue, saturation, luminosity sliders again, and this time I'm making sure to turn the saturation all the way up before adjusting the luminosity. So I'm going to turn the luminosity down just a little bit until it feels correct. And then for this, and now we're done. Our colors now match the color and value of our boxes while still looking like the original local colors of the original shapes. And the fun part is you can hide the background boxes and see how different our colors are from where we started. Isn't it kind of like magic? Now for exercise 2. Doing all those steps to get the correct colors is a lot of work, so we're going to practice intuiting all of those adjustments in one go. Here on the left, we have our little wizard friend with his local colors, and here on the right, we're going to be coloring him in to match a new background. So this is the color I've chosen, and I'm going to use the same back and forth color picker method to find each of my colors. So starting with the eyes, which are pure white, all we need to do is make them a pale version of the background color. Then skin will go back and forth. And find something in the middle of both the hues and their relationship on this square. Then the beard, it's a neutral gray, so it's just going to get tinted with the background color. Next are the yellow stars, so they'll end up something like this. For the green stars, they're actually the exact opposite color as the background. So we'll make them exactly neutral gray, but a bit darker to match the value of the green. And then lastly is the blue robes, which will become something like this. Get this little bit right here. And voila! The further the colors are from each other on the color wheel, the more you will be moving your new color towards the grays. And then a fun little trick that I like to do to make something look more fluorescent is instead of desaturating complementary colors, I'll saturate them more. So I especially like to do this with eye whites to create more contrast and draw attention to the face. So instead of tinting the eyes with the background color, we'll instead tint them with the opposite of the background color. So before I had just tinted them with this pinkish purple. So now instead I will go to the opposite side of the color wheel and do this instead. Now they kind of look like they're glowing. And you can use this effect to make a vampire character look ghostly pale in the night, or to make someone's white clothing look like it's glowing under arcade black lights. So hopefully you learned something about color theory and have a little bit better of an idea on how to actually apply your color theory knowledge to your artwork. I didn't write an outro. I don't know why I didn't write an outro. Hope you like my wizard and learned something about color theory.